My name is Trevor Nelson. I guess I have always, as long as I can remember at least, had a relationship with God and Jesus. So starting back at the church I grew up in, it was kind of like the church out of a novel. It had, the white steeple, it had the big stained glass window behind the pulpit, 2 rows of about 10 pews, and Sunday school was in the basement underneath the chapel, and we learned, the Bible stories and the songs that went with them, all the songs that you may not know the names of, but if you heard them, you would join right in. So it was a Lutheran church, so the interesting thing, and I don't know if this goes across the board, but when you were about 9 or 10, you could go through confirmation, and it meant you could take communion, you were an adult in the church or something of the sort, and in my family what that meant was you then took ownership of it. So you could make the decision of going to the services, and because we were an early service family, given the choice between that and Sunday morning cartoons, I made my decision fairly quickly. And then flash forward over my time away from the church, I guess, I was just kind of living my life, and I still had an open dialogue with God. Whenever something I deemed or considered important came along, a lot of it was bargaining, something I wanted or something that I could get help with or I needed help with. But then a couple of big events happened that kind of changed my life. One of the, if not the biggest, was my father passing away. So my dad passed away kind of suddenly from lung cancer. It was, I think the whole process was about 3 months. So from when he got sick, went to the hospital, got checked out, didn't come home for the next couple months. And then he passed away the day after Christmas, which we, now looking back, was a blessing that he got to spend that time with us. But I kind of was looking for things after that to fill a void. So whether it was sports or relationships or what I consider social politics, the popularity game, things like that. That's what I was doing in junior high, just trying to figure things out. Then when I was about 13, I found myself strangely church shopping. I would kind of visit to it was just my mom and my older brothers had moved out, gone to college or gone on to do other things. And so it was me and my mom there. I had very little supervision, but I kind of found myself looking for something. So I ended up going to basically any church that I had a buddy that went to. So I had a friend that went to a Lutheran church, a friend that went to a Baptist church, a friend that went to a Life Center church. I went to them all, and I just kind of was seeing what I liked. I knew I liked worship music. I knew I liked the relationships. I liked the feeling, but wasn't finding it. And then I ended up going to a Presbyterian church that was near a friend of mine's house, and they had a youth night thing every week, and all the movers and shakers were there. So you'd go there and you'd hang out beforehand and you'd hang out afterwards, and they had fun games and the typical youth night thing. And I just went. I think it was like my first time, and one of the leaders, a small group leader, just kind of said, you're with me. And I said, oh, okay. And I got kind of thrown into this small group. I didn't have anything else to do. So it was actually just this small group comprised of, I don't know how to say this, but the biggest names in my junior high. It was like all the cool kids, and we were in there together, and it was cool. But the thing is we were like the small group on Sundays, but the rest of the week we weren't. So we made unwise decisions the rest of the time. Then came back on Sunday together and did our small group homework and memorized our verse or something that morning. And it wasn't really that real for me then. I'd say my relationship with God was ebbs and flows. It was highs and lows. And so even though I felt like I was more involved, it was a lower time. And then, and like I said, I always kind of had a relationship with him. I always was talking. I knew he was real. I knew he sacrificed his son for me and my sins, and I knew he was the one way towards salvation and things like that. So kind of one of the biggest moments in my life, kind of realizing God's presence, is when we had one of those church retreats at a camp, and the whole camp was full of basically everybody from my junior high and the surrounding schools that I was acquainted with, and they had chapels every night, and there'd be big, there was an altar call every day, and new people would be going to the altar and reaching it, and I had kind of a cynical view of it in the sense that I had seen these kids outside of this place, and it was different, and so I was skeptical of what kind of real change would be happening and things like that. And it came down to the last night, and there was like a big altar call. I think they even anointed. We did like oil anointings and things like that. But there was like a big time altar call, and people were going up. And I it wasn't me that was going up, but I remember afterwards, everything happened. We went back to you could go out in the field and talk, and there was people crying, people going around. I remember specifically just one girl sobbing and accepting Jesus and saying it was real. And I remember the feeling of skepticism kind of left me. Like, I even remember thinking in my head, I should be looking at this person and saying, you're faking it, or you're not really changing. But I wasn't sobbing, but I felt like an overwhelming sense of peace. Like, just the actual feeling that God was present in that place and he was making change. And I think that was kind of the first time I really felt like God was present, and he was there, and he was having a direct impact on people. I had heard the stories, I had prayed the prayers, I had said the right words, memorized the verses, sang the songs, but I kind of always look back on that as that's when I realized that God's active and he's there with us. So when I give my testimony, I refer back to that. It's not the first time I said that I was giving my life to Jesus. I don't even know if I necessarily told anybody that day that I was giving my life to Jesus, right? I was baptized as a child. I was baptized just a few years ago as an adult, as a public profession of my faith. But that was kind of a turning point in which I said, okay, God, you are in charge. You're my Savior, my personal Savior, and I can't do anything without you. It wasn't a sobbing moment. It wasn't a shouting or speaking in tongues. It was just a sense of joy and peace that I felt, and it overwhelmed me. And any skepticism and cynicism, it just went away. And I was really happy to see that with even, and like I said, it's ebbs and flows. So there's been times since then where I've felt further away from God, and I've asked him why, and there's times where I felt close to God and so joyous and happy. But that was kind of a peak, and always a part of my life that I'll look back on and remember as I gave my life to the one true Savior, and I'm happy that I did.